I seem to have recruited a friend. Part of the reason for my making this video, this series, is that I want to try and help people find some solace in any amount of greenery that they may have. But just look at this abundance of wildflowers, this profusion of light and colour. No better remedy than nature and exercise, fresh air, open space. Now, I suppose I can't talk about gratitude without exploring the places that I'm most familiar with and that are most close to home. I'm very, very lucky to have idyllic spaces, idyllic places right at my doorstep. Some days I just look out and think, how is this possible? How can I have such incredible views, painterly views, idyllic views right outside my window? As you can see, we've got this pond here. Great crested newts inhabit it. I once sparked up a conversation with someone doing great crested newt surveys here. It's something I have some experience with, doing great crested newt mitigation for an HS2 site. So we've got the sheep out now, although usually we have the horses out in the field. They're currently behind the fence. But it's just incredible. I can just look out here and I've got horses and sheep and a pond. Incredible views. If you will let me past, thank you very much. So I'm very, very lucky to live in a semi-rural area such as this. It's just, I mean, I think back to conversations I've had with people from this channel, people commenting on my videos over the years, suggesting that they live in concrete jungles. And of course you can hear cars going by. I've got a road right next to me, but the fact that I can just walk out and in about a minute or two be in this field, I'm more and more, as I grow older, I'm more and more just appreciative of the small things. And just the fact that I get to even stand beside this oak tree. And just marvel at it. So what I think we're going to do for this particular video is explore areas close to home. Now, of course, I'm creating a bit of a false dichotomy there, in that the Chilterns themselves are very close to home. But I just mean exploring places that aren't technically part of the Chilterns national landscape. I'm going to be visiting this particular area, then another field very close by as well, and then I might head to Snakemoor Nature Reserve, which is about a 10-minute drive or so. I'll speak about that more when I get there, and then also maybe a bit later in the day might go for a cycle at the Phoenix Trail. So yes, I can just I can enumerate all these different places, and of course that's only just, those are the places very close to hand. I'm thinking right now, just the simple act of walking on this path, it might sound a bit absurd. It might sound as if I'm fabricating my sense of gratitude. But, I mean, even just to be in contact with these sheep have their ecological problems, or they can cause ecological problems when there's overgrazing, of course, but just the very fact that there are these other animals here, these other beings that I can just walk beside. And just, I'm walking on this simple gravel path. And I realise that some people don't have that at all. Some people can't even get out just to have a walk without going across the city to a park with other people. And it's just me here in this verdant green field. And you'll see in a minute, I've got two things to show you. A lovely stream framed by two trees, but also a woodland that I did my put some pitfall traps in for my dissertation in 2018, 2017, 2018. So what I'll do here is I'll show you the entrance to the woodland that I placed my pitfall traps in to survey carrion beetles. I placed 4 baited pitfall traps in 4 woodlands separated 2 miles apart, and this was one of them. It was very handy because I needed a woodland very close to home. I was going out I believe it was every morning and night for every day for about a month or so. Replacing bait and collecting the beetles and marking them, and it was quite a task, let me tell you that. But yes, I just happened to find this particular wood, which was the right sort of shape and the right size, and so very, very grateful to have such a woodland. And I might show it on a map in a video. However, it's a shame that it's private and I've not been able to get permission to enter it again. And the reason I want permission is because I want to start camping again. I want to get back into what was essentially going to be my life's hobby and pursuit. I loved camping. Did it in Scotland, and then when I moved down to England I did it as well, but of course the laws in Scotland are a lot more lax. They're a lot more lenient. You can camp, although it's getting trickier nowadays in Scotland. But in England you feel wrong when you're camping. I remember always looking both ways, as it were, eyes shifting, feeling a little bit tense. And so I would give anything to have genuine permission to camp in a woodland. And what's unfortunate is that in my email I obviously explained who I was and my background and so forth. And I even suggested I would just camp with a single tent, a small tent, with no fire at all, just the bare minimum, as little damage as possible, as little disturbance as possible, and just ignored. So if I can't even camp with my background and my bushcraft ethos, I'm not holding out much hope, unfortunately. But I suppose one can't complain, and this is what this video series is going to be about. there's a lot to say about gratitude. It's a defining feeling of my life, and certainly as I get into my 30s, I'm feeling the need for gratitude more than ever in relation to the natural world. And every single day, I almost every single day I go out into the woods and hills, and I sometimes just stop and think, it's incredible that I get to be here. And this is what this video series is going to be about. I just started recording. I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to say, but I think I'm going to put less stress on myself here. I'm just going to see what comes out. I've been thinking about all manner of things that I've read in the past about gratitude. There's one particular chapter in the book Cohabiting Earth, which was edited by my colleagues at the Ecological Citizen. A whole chapter on gratitude, which I could have drawn from, and I might place some text later on in a video using that chapter, utilising ideas from that chapter. But I almost want this to be a much more visceral and unplanned and wild experience. I have a tendency to try and make everything maybe over-intellectualized isn't the right word, but it's something like I need it to be more rigorous. I need it to be more worthwhile than simply walking and talking. But I think it's enough just to express a love of where I get to be. And I think the message of this particular series as well is that hopefully it'll come out that I've never really felt more established, more rooted in a place as the Chilterns. And of course we haven't even begun to get into the Chilterns yet. And hopefully I'll be thinking about the contrast with Scotland and England, and pointing out places that have shaped my thinking. Of course I'll try to highlight species that I see on the road. It's spring now. There's bluebells out. There are the dog violets, primrose, red kites. We have red kites, many red kites in the Chilterns. Looking at hawthorn just now. So lots to see and lots to do. It's simply incredible that I get to walk a minute or two outside my door and have this. And it's something I'm thinking about just now, actually, as I return here. The fact that I don't actually sit here more often, and perhaps this is going to be a theme of the Chilterns Exploration series, which is that although I try to get out a lot, I just wish there were fewer people. Even in a place like this, I would prefer fewer people, admittedly. Natural disposition of being an introvert. Although, of course, you could argue that living in a semi-rural area such as this, people tend to be a bit friendlier. I've spoken to the farmer here a few times. I think it's actually quite indicative of the Chilterns, just this general region, that this view is just outside my house. And I could just sit here by the stream and write or think or listen to music or whatever it might be. So, as I'm walking, I'm thinking about Thither to Nature, which is the series I produced several years ago now for the channel, which was essentially the first version of what I'm doing now, the first attempt in which I walked and talked in the Chilterns, and sometimes I would stop and point out a certain plant or animal and provide information on said non-human being. And I'm just thinking that I'm going to devote my attention mostly to talking about gratitude, but I would like to point out certain plants and animals, of course. That's a major addition to these discussions. I just thought I would take the time to pause here and look at this ground ivy, which I believe is Glaucoma hederacea. I just love the colours. Very similar colours to early dog violet. Cleavers as well, I think. Very sticky. Latches on to clothes. You can see some sheep's fleece on the hawthorn here. So as I'm walking, I'm just thinking that the Thither to Nature series, those early episodes did feature a lot of wildlife, and I hope to continue to do that in this series, this revamped series. I'll have to try and make a more concerted effort to do so, because I'm going to mostly be speaking about gratitude again, and I'm just looking at this speedwell specimen. I seem to have recruited a friend. Munching away. It's okay. See, it's just, you can just have experiences like that when you're lucky enough to live in places such as this. Red dead nettle. And so we come to the next location, which is only about 1 minute away from the first. Even I often feel very stressed after sitting down too long, after staring at a screen. Perhaps stress isn't the right word, it's more sense of it's needing to use my muscles to get air in my lungs, to breathe hard, just to, I don't know, I often have a sense of, there's a sense of coldness. I think I admittedly have poor circulation, and when I sit down for too long, I often get cold and I feel a bit stagnant and ill, sense of illness. And when I come out, that all goes away. I start feeling warmer, start feeling fresher. I'm not saying anything particularly profound, of course, but I think the point of this first episode at least is just to, I almost just want to verbalise just the simple joy of being outside. Now, as I'm basking in the sun here, I'm aware that it could come across as though I'm indulging in this. In a sense I am, it's lovely to be out. But in terms of the video, in terms of the presentation here, I don't want it to sound, I don't want it to be, I don't want to gloat. Part of the reason for my making this video, this series, is that I want to try and help people find some solace in any amount of greenery that they may have. And I'm not sure exactly how to do that yet. I might in fact draw upon various philosophical and literary insights. But I also want to just speak in as simple terms as possible. So I could talk about, for example, the notion that the enchantment of nature, it tells us that there's always a sense of going deeper into something. It feels expansive. And so if you have a small island of greenery, perhaps it's a way of thinking about it that makes it feel more mysterious or unplumbable. So I might get into that kind of thinking, but I also just want to suggest that there's, it's Wordsworth's infinity, really. The inexhaustible richness of nature, the inexhaustible wealth of life. Because even in the most impoverished places, there's wonder to be had. So I hope to speak in some depth about these kinds of things. But I also just want to, I don't want to over-intellectualize it again. I want to just, I don't know, maybe my own reactions, my own expressions of joy and the way that I'm moving about the landscape can in some way help others. I'm not sure. So as I stand beside this horse chestnut tree, I just had a moment there of thinking that it's not gone away. This feeling of just that I get to be, just that the default state, the baseline is to have contact with nature. I actually now cannot imagine, I simply cannot imagine how frustrating and spiritually impoverishing it would be to not have any contact with nature. It's been a long time since I've been able to live in such places in England, and yet I've not gotten used to it. So, just a quick history. I grew up in Scotland, had very little experience with nature until my mid to late teenage years. And because I couldn't drive, I felt really disconnected from nature. I had to travel by bus to the next town just to get into a sort of wooded strip with a river. And I didn't have any real sense of where I lived, and I didn't have, there were wooded pockets on the map, but I just didn't have any great understanding of distance and the lay of the land, really. I remember walking to a very, very small copse of trees and thinking it was some deeply spiritual and significant experience to be there. It was at night time, and I was just by myself in this wood of about, I don't know, 50 trees or so, or even less, even fewer. And that was a long time ago that I felt like that. It's been a long time since I've lived in England, and I've had so many experiences in nature. It's just a whole world I'm trying to encapsulate, I suppose. And even now, I still feel it's almost as if I've still got that younger person inside, where it's gratitude for that, again, that baseline feeling of just I'll show you where I am. I was just looking into these trees here, and even this is enough. That's what I'm trying to get across. Doesn't have to be a designated nature reserve with names like site of special scientific interest or special area of conservation, special protection area. Just to return to my earlier thoughts about childhood or my teenage years, I don't know, it's a strange thing, because of course when I was about 16, 17, 18, I was exploring the Highlands of Scotland. I was already connected to nature. I think it's just the notion of availability and access that I'm thinking more about, rather than just the occasional rare trip into a more vast nature reserve or something like that. Because I couldn't drive for some time after I discovered the natural world. So even in Scotland, when I was aware of nature and connections with, I was trying to forge connections with heritage, broadly construed, I didn't often go out. I didn't have much direct contact, constant contact, as I do now. It was only after I got down to England and then actually learned to drive that I had those connections. And since I've been living in England, I've moved around a lot, many different counties: Dorset, Hampshire, Buckinghamshire, Oxfordshire. There's other ones I can't quite remember, but I guess generally speaking, it's all been great in terms of the availability of nature. I mean, look at this view here. Just incredible. So as I say, I've been living in various places in England, mostly in contact with a good amount of nature reserves and country parks and whatnot. Look at that horse chestnut tree. It's simply majestic. It's only since I've been living in Tame, right beside the Chiltern Hills, that I've had the sense of having so many opportunities to experience nature and to really feel like it doesn't have to be something that's few and far between. And all I'm doing here, as you can see, is just walking on this one path by a field and residential area. Well, as you can see, the pond is overgrown with reeds. So as I was walking back, I was thinking about how to handle species identification in this video series. And of course it's fairly arbitrary. I could mention any number of species as long as I know what it is. For example, I could mention this dandelion here. But I've stopped beside Lamium alba, white dead nettle, because it caught my attention, and I think that's what I'm going to do. There's always species to show and name, of course. If it catches my attention, if it speaks to me in some way, even if it's just I remember it more than another species, I'll highlight it. But again, I'm going to try and not let the species identification take over. So for instance, here's garlic mustard beside a blackthorn hedge. It's just one that comes to mind. Alaria petiolata, I believe. So, always species to find, always things to see. So here we are at Snakemoor Nature Reserve. A green island beside a train station, about 10 minutes or so from the house. Snakemoor Local Nature Reserve. I was very pleased to be able to share this particular reserve with Patrick Curry when he came to visit last year, summer of last year. And so again, I just want to reiterate that this first episode is not in the Chilterns, the Chiltern Hills. It's just those areas that are closest to me. I'm just featuring those areas closest to me. So as I'm walking on this path, of course, as I tend to do, I'm looking at wildlife and feeling both a sense of gratitude and a sense of frustration in that, as has been happening for the past several years, my knowledge of, or my recognition of certain species has faded after a while, has begun to fade. And although there are many species that I can name, I'm actually trying not to get so frustrated by it. I was actually quite depressed about it at a certain point, a certain period of my life post-study. Nowadays I'm trying not to feel as frustrated, because it's only natural that names will fade, and in a sense it almost makes it more real. It makes ecological relationships more real. Makes them more real because, like friends that you haven't seen, for an extended period of time, you might forget their face, and it's really the same with. There's a brimstone butterfly just flying past. It's really the same with wildlife, with other than human beings, with non-human life. So I try to remind myself of that, although admittedly there is still a frustration when I can't remember even basic species that would have been my bread and butter, so to speak. Like, for example, this is dogwood, Cornus sanguinea, and if you split the leaves, you'll get some threads that will tell you that it's a true dogwood. Things like that I remember. And it's a way of concretizing my gratitude, just to be able to know these things. But I guess I've always been more suspicious than not of any kind of categorization, systematization. Obviously, that should be fairly obvious, moving from the sciences to the humanities. So, although it is obviously it's a natural part of it's just a natural part of living in the country and being a lover of nature, that you'll know species, you'll know the names of plants and animals, but it's not great when it becomes something that just affirms your ego. So field maple, Acer campestri, and Arum maculatum, lords and ladies. And I don't know, it's a strange thing, because I've brought up with people such as Patrick the tension I feel with names fading. But at the same time, I just don't think it's not too bad just to know a name or two. It's when it becomes, again, it's when it becomes overly rigid. And it's as if knowing the name of something means that you understand the entity as a complete, fully analysed whole, rather than an impartial and opaque being that cannot be fully understood. And of course, I've always known that. It's just obviously, especially when I was studying, there's a lot of emphasis placed on names and technical detail about surveying and things like this, which makes it more difficult just to appreciate the fact that I'm looking at another being, another entity. So, yes, Lesser Celandine. Vicaria Verna, I believe, although that's not the name that I used to remember it by. Hazel, Corylus avellana. And we've got some bluebells there. Hopefully we'll be seeing bluebells a bit later on at Cowley's Wood. But for now, let's just explore Snakemoor Nature Reserve. So again, this place really is it's quite indicative of the quality of nature in this region, and just the overall sort of sense of contact. The fact that I could just drive 10 minutes down the road and get to this nature reserve. Snakemoor started life as a nature reserve in 1987. Volunteers during the following years have developed the site, and donations from local groups and individuals have ensured its success. "70 bird species, 38 species of fungi, 30 main primary tree species, mammals, plants." I mean, it's all coming back to me. It always comes back to me when I see interpretation boards like that in particular. Again, it's always a theme of these types of videos when I make them, of how I seem to be more, I don't know, I think it's the life of the mind nowadays. Whereas I used to, of course, be out in the countryside doing practical habitat management and so forth. Although of course it's still part of my study. It was still the life of the mind even then, and that I was studying ecology and learning about ecological theory and genetics and evolution and survey pipelines and whatnot. But I just mean in terms of, I suppose there has been a gradual shift towards more cultural and philosophical thought. And I do tend to be indoors a bit more and to be thinking a bit more, thinking deeper. Not that I wasn't thinking deeper or deeply back then, of course, but I just mean that I've tended to gravitate towards thinking as opposed to doing. So most of my time spent in nature is either just sitting, reflecting on things, thinking about things, or climbing trees. But yes, Snakemoor Nature Reserve. So what this is essentially a circuit that goes around, all the way around in a horseshoe shape, ending with a view of a pond. And here you can see the car park of the train station. I really am never not in contact with some form of greenery. And there's something about this place in particular that, again, it almost feels like a microcosm of what I'm trying to get across. It feels, because it is just this one circular walk, I believe that's elder. This tree here, Sambucus nigra, that's where you get elderberries from. Because it's just one circular walk, it feels like, I don't know, there's something about it, it almost feels like, it's almost ritualistic, the fact that I can just go around the circle. And I've actually often come here when I'm struggling with a piece of work. And it almost just it feels almost like the Chilterns in miniature in a way. It's hard to describe. I don't know, it's just, I just love the fact that I've got a volunteer run nature reserve with a great amount of biodiversity right on the doorstep, genuinely just about 10-minute drive away or so. Now I saw a plant, I was back here, two plants in fact. Look at the colours. Primrose, Primula vulgaris, and Herb Robert. Now I can't quite remember, it's Geranium Robertianum or something like that, I'm not quite sure. But yes, Primrose, actually one of my favourite wildflowers. I remember doing a report on the genetics of Primrose. It's the morphology of the primrose. So as I'm walking, there's a part of me that admittedly is trying to find things to say, especially because this is such an important subject, and there's certainly times when I'm straying from the main topic, but I think that's only natural. I think one of the main goals actually is to almost switch off and just appreciate what I'm seeing. Because I almost feel like I have the weight behind me of everything that I've written in the past and spoken about in these videos on the channel since its conception. And just everything I've done in the past as well, practically speaking. Because this, I think it really is actually one of the main topics. Gratitude. And I'm sure this is something I'll get onto a bit later on, but it could even be the subject, or it certainly informs the non-fiction book that I want to write. But I think what I'll do is I will leave that for later on. I'm just walking here, and it's because of the circuit itself. The circuit is sort of forcing me. I know I'm coming up to the end, and not only do I want to point out certain, there's a hoverfly there. Not only do I want to point out wildlife, such as I just did, I also want to try and get more across about my feelings towards gratitude, or my feelings of gratitude rather. Speaking of which, it's just beyond idyllic. This is just incredible. And of course, people live right next to colossal mountains. And what I really have is more of the Shire-esque countryside. I live essentially in Tolkien country, beside Oxford, really. I think this is why I enjoy these places in particular, the fact that they are so pleasant and stable and rooted. Of course, I would love to live in Scotland and again, and go out into the, if I live in the hills, I would go out every single day without question, without a doubt. But I do love just having this green, pleasant land to exist in. Orange tip butterfly. Not sure if you can see it on camera. There it is. 2 of them, in fact. Try not to disturb it. Now we've reached the end of the circuit, marked by this unbelievably impressive willow tree. Old Man Willow. And then this is the part here that really makes me love this place, this tunnel formed of bowing branches. See here. And here's another view. It's going to continue to happen in this series where I pause and look at a particular framed view, and it just brings it all back. Because again, one can get used to these things. And I've sat and looked out at this pond quite a long time now, a number of years. But it never gets any less pleasant. I mean, think about what we've looked at so far in this video, and it's all right next to my home. This isn't even the Chiltern Hills. And so this bench here, I've sat on this bench and done work before, and you might even remember it from a vlog that I recorded a couple of years ago. In many ways, I sometimes think that I should come out even more than I already do. Although I do feel a little bit, as I mentioned in a recent video, I do feel a bit of guilt over using the car to get to places. I can cycle here, although it does take a little bit of time. But yeah, I really should. I feel like I should be out even more. I mean, if I can live in such a place as this, I should go out every single day. Especially when in my mind I contrast it with someone living in a concrete jungle. Now on the way back, I love this particular stand of birch trees. Birch, one of my favourite trees. A pioneer tree, a tree of the uplands. This is silver birch, Betula pendula. Again, just look at this view. A single small island of green. a circuit walk. Just incredible. Time to go back home, I think. And then what I'll do is I'll go for a cycle at the Phoenix Trail. But just look at this abundance of wildflowers, this profusion of light and colour. One small nature reserve, local nature reserve, beside a train station. Not even the Chiltern Hills. I remember doing a lot of running at the Phoenix Trail, but it's when I started cycling that not only my town sort of opened up, but also the wider region as well. It goes all the way from Tame in the west to Princess Risborough in the east. So let's go for a cycle. Just whizzing by fields, whizzing by the trees. Lots of great places to sit. These benches in the form of an art installation, I suppose. Just incredible that it's just, I guess, that unrestricted movement. So if I've had a particularly frustrating day, no better remedy than nature, of course. No better remedy than nature and exercise, fresh air, open space, just endless fields and farms, islands of greenery. Endless footpaths. And here we are at what I consider to be a major checkpoint. I don't want to disturb the pheasant, of course. But as you can see, very rural. So here you can see not only a few of the hills away over there, but also some of the figures that have been placed atop the poles here on the Phoenix Trail. I'm not quite sure what the origin of these figures is, but they remind me of creatures from where the weird things are. Very strange. What I think I'll do now is I'll head back the other way and show you the other side of the Phoenix Trail, and then that'll close the day off. As I was cycling to get to this point, I forgot that this is technically going to be the first nature reserve that is highlighted and marked on the Chilterns National Landscape map. This is Cuttlebrook Nature Reserve, and it's a local nature reserve. It's got the same designation as Snakemoor Nature Reserve, although for whatever reason, I'm not entirely quite sure, Cuttlebrook is marked on the official Chilterns National Landscape map, even though it's not actually part of the Chiltern Hills range. And so this is a lovely place. It was designated in the 90s, I believe, run by volunteers similar to Snakemoor, and it takes in a lot. There are meadows. There's a tributary of the River Thames, and it's called Cuttlebrook. It takes in scrubland, hedgerows, there's reeds and sedge, and there's also young woodland as well. It's a very, very biodiverse place. Lots to see. There's lovely views of the tributary, and there's a bridge and everything. So let's go explore Cuttlebrook Nature Reserve. Obviously keep in mind that this is not yet the Chiltern Hills, and I'm actually saying that to myself. Keep in mind, Taylor, how much you should be thankful for. It's actually taken quite a long time to show you the places that I've shown you. The two fields with the ponds by my house and in Snakemoor Nature Reserve, and now a cycle through the Phoenix Trail. Just the fact that I get to cycle down here and potentially sit by a river under these willow trees. That was quite the enjoyable trip around some very nearby green spaces. Now it's time to head to the Chilterns.